We begin this hour in the court. Yes, a federal high court sitting in Lagos has stopped the federal government of Nigeria from going on with its Nigeria Air agreement reached with Ethiopian Airlines. The court today granted an order of interim injunction restraining the federal government from executing the proposed or draft agreement of the establishment of a national carrier between Ethiopian Airlines and Nigeria. In a suit challenging the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, and others over the national carrier project, the plaintiffs asked the court to restrain the defendants, including Nigeria Air, Ethiopian Airlines, Senator Hadi Sirika, Ministry of Aviation, and the Attorney General of the Federation from executing the proposed or draft national carrier.
And joining us to take a look at the aviation, of course, that litigation and matters concerning Nigeria Air is the President and CEO of Topbrass Aviation, Captain Roland Iyayi. He's also the former Managing Director and CEO of the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA. Thank you so much, Captain Iyayi, for joining us tonight on the program. Well, the issue and the brouhaha with Nigeria Air, it seems to be unending. From day one when Nigeria Air was announced, there was a lot of criticisms. But for airline operators of Nigeria to go as far as litigation, Nigerians are wondering, are you opposed to a national carrier, Nigeria Air, or are you opposed to Ethiopian Airlines having a major stake in the airline? What exactly are the issues here?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. I think the issues here are actually multifaceted. To start with, the airline operators of Nigeria are not averse to having a national carrier. Now, there's a need to make a sort of distinction between a national carrier and a flag carrier. When the Honorable Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, when he got to inform Nigerians about this project, he had clearly indicated that it was going to be a PPP project, and it was going to be such that Nigerians would have a majority stake. Now, indeed, for you to have a national carrier, that carrier must be substantially owned and effectively controlled by the nationals of the state. Now, he had also gone ahead to say that the structure of ownership would be that there will be a strategic equity partner coming in at 49%. There would also be 46% meant for the institutional and financial investors from Nigeria. And then, of course, the Nigerian government will take a 5% stake. Now, looking at that structure, we felt there was a problem. Now, when it turned out, I mean, mind you, this project has been going on since 2018. And of course, because there were several issues intermittently between then and now, the president even had to come out and say, well, that project is suspended. But only just recently was a go-ahead given. When that go-ahead was given, of course, there was a bid opening and all the rest that went on. We were told that Ethiopian Airlines were the only bidders, as it turned out. We went and met with the Honorable Minister and said, listen, we believe there's a better way to do this. We're not averse to having a national carrier, but our major concern is that if you're bringing the Ethiopian Airline group into the Nigerian domestic market, because that's essentially what you're trying to do through the back door, you are going to decimate the domestic market, kill off the domestic carriers. Because essentially, right now, Ethiopia has about 4 landing points in Nigeria. That itself is not in the longer term interest of the domestic carriers. But be that as it may, it's been done. But bringing them into the domestic market now is a major foray that would ultimately kill off a lot of airlines. But that's not even our problem. The problem is when you look at the bid that was submitted by Ethiopian Airlines, that is where the problem starts. Now, Ethiopian Airlines submitted a bid clearly articulating all the issues befalling the industry. These issues have not been addressed to make sure that the domestic carriers in Nigeria can thrive. Then all of a sudden you're bringing in Ethiopian Airlines. For starters, they should not be the strategic partner because of a certain project. It means that you're bringing your competitor to take over your market. You're now bringing them in. Then you're now giving them privileges which the domestic carriers do not have.
So it's not a level playing field?
Absolutely not. You have a 15-year tax moratorium that is going to be given to this Nigeria Air project. You have dedicated air terminals that have been set aside in Lagos and Abuja for the same carrier. Now, they're bringing in 8 airplanes. In the country today, domestic carriers have a sort of combined total of maybe 70, 80 airplanes operating in the domestic market. These airlines are tied to a little small terminal at most airports. You are given a new carrier that is supposedly private. You are giving them a huge terminal with
Captain
8 airplanes.
Iyayi, you have raised a lot of issues right now, but at the end of the day,
Yes.
there was a bidding process.
Yes.
So I ask you,
Yes.
the local airlines,
Yes.
did you try to apply to get that which eventually was given to Ethiopian Airlines, speaking
Well,
about the 49%?
You see, this is where
equity
this is
stake?
where it actually gets even more interesting.
Right.
When the bid was opened, there was a portal that was set up to be sure that indeed we're not shortchanging ourselves. We had our members go on to that bid. Fortunately, the ministry has a list of all those who accessed the portal. The date and the time they accessed the portal, they have them. And we have that list as well. But what had turned out to happen is that our memberships, the members who tried to access, even though they were able to get onto the portal, had no access to the documents. So if you're not able to get the RFP documents, you're not able to get all the bidding documents, how do you present your bid? So that was a major issue we needed to deal with. Calls were made to the ministry and they said, oh, they're fixing certain things. But we all of a sudden realized that, yes, we couldn't have access, but other people had access. So invariably we looked at it that maybe ultimately we have a contrived outcome. And indeed, that's essentially what we have.
Okay, this is interesting and intriguing at the same time. We are yet to see the business case for this project. I don't know if you have access to it, because the last time the Minister of Aviation did say he needed to present it to Council, that's the Federal Executive Council, for approval.
Yes.
So you have that document.
Yes.
What exactly is Ethiopia bringing in terms of shares for reciprocity, for instance, for Nigeria? Is it worth it? And then this whole issue of the domestic players in the game being sidelined or left behind. Some would say perhaps it's the issue of capacity. Do you think the local airlines can actually play the big game? One or two, perhaps. But when you look at the industry, you kind of say it's been devoid of challenges.
Essentially what I've just said to you, if the ministry understands what the issues are bedeviling the industry and has not addressed it for the generality of the players in the industry, but willing to do
what
that.
What are the issues in addressing them? Because we do know bailout has been given to the aviation sector in the past.
How much bailout, sir?
Well, they have been given out. But
well,
what are the
issues?
Again,
is a capital-intensive
let's be very clear.
business.
Yes.
Let's address the major issues. The issue here is very simple. Ethiopian Airlines submitted a bid. I've had the privilege of reviewing and studying that bid. The Ministry of Aviation produced an outline business case. The outline business case was the basis of the approval by Mr. President through the ICRC. Now, when you review those documents and again take on the draft agreement that was going to be signed with whoever that strategic equity partner is, and take on the RFPs, you would find that the ministry itself has actually violated its own conditions as set out in all these documents.
Is that what necessitated this
Absolutely,
litigation?
absolutely. Because again, I'll take specifics.
Yes.
In the case of the Ethiopian Airline business case, they identified the issues bedeviling the Nigerian industry.
They
Right.
did.
They did.
Identifying the issues, some would say maybe that's the first step towards trying to address these issues. But let's look at it, because time is really not our friend. The fact that hearing will begin on the 24th of this month of November with regards to this case, but for now, the court has said, let everything stay the way it is.
Fair enough.
Nigeria is yet to sign the dotted lines with Ethiopian Air. So
Yes.
what would you like to see happen? What was the idea behind this litigation and the end result?
First of all, like we told the minister, I personally sat with him and discussed. The issue of having Ethiopian come into the market is a no-no, because you cannot bring your competitor as a strategic partner. You don't have access to their market. They're coming into your market because your market is the largest market on the continent. Ethiopia, when Nigeria was operated, it was difficult going to Addis Ababa because they would not allow reciprocity for a long time. Even in Ethiopia today, Ethiopian Airlines is the only major airline. The only other airline in Ethiopia is a charter airline. They can't do scheduled services. So when you look at it, here is a situation, somebody is coming from a protected market. You're now coming to liberalize your market. In any case, what we'll end up with is we'll go back to what we had as a regulated market. Why? If Ethiopia comes in with all the money they want to come in, the business plan they produced, which I have read, has indicated clearly that what they intend to do in the next 12 months is what you call predatory pricing to get market penetration. What does that mean? Undercut the market so that they can get major markets. But mind you, they have only 8 airplanes coming into the market. I mean, we're talking like combined total of the domestic carriers having about maybe 80, 90 airplanes.
So it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Again, when you look at that in the let's even assume for whatever range, I mean, they're able to do it. What you end up with is that the Nigerian consumers will be at a loss because you don't have competition, ultimately becomes a monopoly.
What about the jobs? The
jobs were lost. And then again, crisis in the industry will be manifest because all the aviation agencies rely on the domestic carriers predominantly to be able to sustain.
Okay, so you speak of reciprocity, and I know that that is actually, when you look at the BASA agreement, is a big part of it.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the fact that Nigeria has no national carrier, some would say we are at a loss because that, you know, principle of reciprocity where I'm allowed to come, it's part, I'm allowed to come, you're allowed to come into my country and I'm allowed to go to your country. The fact that we do not have a national carrier is hindering that from happening. So for local airline operators, you have gone to court. I ask you again, what is the end game? What would you like to see, especially since the dotted lines have not been signed, especially for the betterment of Nigerians?
What we told the Honorable Minister is that we are not averse to having a national carrier. Indeed, we are happy to have a national carrier, knowing that the full weight of a government is going to be behind whoever this carrier is or whatever the carrier is put together, simply because, you know, when you go international, it goes beyond the domestic politics. And that's why the government needs to put its weight behind it. But you see, in this particular project that we're talking about, it is conceived as a private project. Government cannot be indemnifying that project. That is what they're asking for. Government cannot provide 15 years of tax moratorium. That is not right. Government cannot be providing funding for it. It's a private entity. That is wrong. And then when you look at the structure of ownership that has been proposed, Ethiopian is supposed to be holding 49%. But the bid that was put in by Ethiopian was by a consortium.
Well,
what that means essentially is that there are a group of owners in that 49%. The same individuals in the 49% also represent themselves in the 46%. And then one of those elements, one of the groups, one of the people in the groups actually, is a foreign company, 60% owned. So invariably what we are saying is that this present project as structured is actually not a Nigerian airline.
Okay. There's a statement credited to the Minister of Aviation, Haji Sirika, saying even the Supreme Court cannot stop this project. We'll wait to see. We keep our fingers.
I don't think he said that.
Okay.
He spoke today in Lagos.
And we do hope that we would have the Minister of Aviation here to tell his side of the story.
Have an exclusive with him coming up sometime next week.
Interesting.
We're looking for out-of-court settlement, and just Nigeria has to win. The aviation sector in Nigeria has to grow. We can't keep being a dumping ground at the end of the day, but we have to find a level playing field for everyone.
We have to let you go. Thank you so much. He's the President and CEO of Topbrass Aviation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.